Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond AR TV. My name is John, and it brings me no joy to talk about the subject that we're going to be talking about today because it's a very serious one. In this edition of News It or Lose It, I'm going to have to be covering the SWMRS situation, where there's been accusations levied against Joey Armstrong, the drummer of that band, the son of legendary Green Day singer and founder Billie Joe Armstrong. There's a lot of complicated feelings behind the scenes between not only Lydia Night's band, The Regrets, and SWMRS, but also the entire scene that was associated with the Burger Records label. I'm going to be focusing on SWMRS today as we cover this story, but just know that there's others out there, and if you want to see any of the full statements, both from Lydia, SWMRS, and more, there's going to be links in the description down below. To catch you up to speed if you're not familiar already, SWMRS are a pop-punk band that have other genres in there as well, not that that's what's important here, but they kind of position themselves as being very woke, very feminist-leaning, very, oh, we are pro this, we are pro that, we support every political forward-thinking agenda there is, and at times it can always feel like they were trying to score woke points with certain communities, and that can backfire, especially if you are allegedly harboring someone in your own band that is actually accused of doing the things that you claim to be against. The day after SWMRS made a statement about cultural abuse, about all of these bands that they just did not believe in, they couldn't believe it seemed like they were so shocked that some of their former label mates and everything were being accused of either sexual coercion or sexual assault. There were a lot of very grimy details that just kind of felt icky to read into, but they spoke up against that, and the next day, Lydia Night, the frontwoman of The Regrets, a kind of surf rock band, I've covered them several times over on my main channel, and she put out a statement that I can only describe is bold. I can't read the entire thing here, but again, I encourage you to read the post down below. And I just want to get into this by saying, Lydia, I believe you. I absolutely believe you. I really do. It's one of those things that seems very strange to me for Joey Armstrong, a 22-year-old, to be accused of not only being in this relationship with an underage girl at the time, she was 16. It always falls back on the adult in those situations. And I know that a lot of times it can be easy to try and play the blame game, like, oh, you know, she was trying to get with him, or she wanted to be with the dude in the band. She was in her own band, and according to this post, Joey was offering The Regrets basically an opening slot playing for the SWMRS show, and here is where it gets complicated. Joey and Lydia start dating, and that again, it's a 6-year age gap, which wouldn't be a thing if she was actually of legal age. They're both in California, the age of consent is 18, so anything under that, it's considered statutory rape if there's something going on there. Now, Joey was allegedly trying to get something from her every time they would meet up, whether that be oral sex or just making out, something that would make her feel uncomfortable, put her in these situations. And it is very hard because they were in a relationship for almost 2 years and ended right before she was 18. Things take an even darker turn when we see that they broke up and they still had shows to play together as SWMRS and The Regrets. And on that opening show, she blows out her voice. It's like the first day of tour, and it's a really sad situation because obviously a singer, you have to have your voice to play these shows across the tour, and on the first date to blow out your voice, you have to go on vocal rest. Well, essentially, they are accused of not only making fun of behind the scenes and like the green room with the other bands of Lydia, saying that she's faking it, they are accused of telling other fans, saying that this is something that she is just faking. Look, here's a video of her that's taken out of context where she's not taking her vocal rest seriously. She just wanted to get paid. And it turned into this thing where the SWMRS fans were essentially bullying The Regrets and specifically targeting Lydia Night, and that is incredibly fucked up to me. This is one of those things where I've seen SWMRS live, I have interacted with them before, and my interactions have not been entirely positive. That goes for Cole Becker and Max Becker, neither of which are accused here, but definitely were in the know, considering they put out this statement about cultural abuse, and then behind the scenes you have Joey Armstrong trying to reach out to Lydia and basically trying to sweep it under the rug, saying it was nothing but a thing, can we let this go, can you forgive me? And then they put out this statement about how they're allies, about how they're doing so much, and it's so fucking hypocritical to me. That is the biggest problem that I have here. It's not even saying like, hey, we've made mistakes and, you know, we're going to do this and we would never do this. There's just so much in there that I could pick apart and pull apart. But instead of doing that, I'm just going to have to say it's extremely hypocritical. And it feels like they are so unaware of what they're doing, their own actions. It's like there's no self-awareness here at all. It's kind of alarming. When you position yourself as an ally to women, as a safe space for the kids, the younger kids to come out to these shows, they feel like they can trust you, and then you're all very clearly aware of this relationship that was going on, and essentially you sign off on it because you're not saying anything, you're not calling it out, you're not doing anything about it. It went on for like 2 years, and it was still a thing where she was underage the entire time, having to lie to her family, having to lie to her friends and her own bandmates. It's a fucked up situation, and I totally understand why she felt trapped there. I get that call-out culture is extremely over the top these days. It feels like everything is aired out on social media, and I personally think there's so many times where a lot of shit, it should be kept at least between the people if possible. But the thing is here is that swimmers were continuing to just put themselves out there and say, look, hey, we are the shining star example, basically, without saying it in those words. Follow us. We are the men that are going to be there for the women. And it's almost white knighting to a degree, except for the woke community. And it's extremely weird, and again, in this hypocritical state where we see them saying these things, and they then put Lydia on blast for not being able to finish a tour. They also kind of downplay any accusations that may have been levied towards them. And swimmers overall, they've just always seemed very, very snarky, very weird about specific things. They grew up privileged, and it's like I don't feel like they always admit their privilege. I mean, they grew up in a very rich area. Their dads, or else their friends' dads, were like rock stars. I mean, we're talking Billie Joe of Green Day. And I, again, am not trying to put anybody other than Joey on blast here specifically, outside of the fact that they knew and then knowingly posted these very hypocritical statements that make it hard for me to really side with them at all. Swimmers did sort of address this. Joey Armstrong hopped on the band's socials, gave a brief statement talking about how he didn't necessarily agree with all of Lydia's things that she said about him, but it's her right to do so, essentially. It was kind of a weird, short, summary, non-apology. I guess you could call it an apology, but it's not for me to accept at the end of the day. That's between him and Lydia, and apparently there have been conversations there. We will just have to wait and see. It is a very, very tricky situation, and I almost didn't want to make this video, but I do want to talk about it because I know that I do try and weigh out every case when it involves cancel culture to see exactly what's going on. What are the details here? What can we put together? Because obviously if a career is on the line or if someone's being canceled forever, it's a very, very tough and heavy subject because this is somebody's livelihood. But in this specific situation, I feel that swimmers are a bit too late in catching up, and this could be the nail in their coffin. Do I think that should happen? Do I think that Joey Armstrong is a pedophile because he was dating a 16-year-old? It is weird. I'm not going to say that it's a good thing at all. The age of consent in some states is 16, so it's a weird line. I don't know how he tried to justify it in his own head, but obviously it was illegal in that state, and it went on for so long. And again, he was the adult. He initiated these things. They continued dating for all that time, so it ultimately falls on him. The consequence at hand, we will just have to wait and see what the fallout is from this situation. Obviously, no tours are going on right now because of COVID-19. We will see if swimmers stay together as a band, if they kick Joey out. He's, of course, a founding member all the way back to the Emily's Army days. It's a very tricky situation because they built up this trust with their community and they pulled the rug out from under fans, and that's not fair to them. But at the end of the day, if I could give one message to you guys, not just about swimmers, about any band that you look up to, stop putting them on this high pedestal. They are only going to break your heart. They are only going to let you down. Let's not say things like, oh, they're terrible, they're toxic, they're canceled, go stream this or listen to them. Instead, we don't know these people. We don't know their intentions. We don't know what they have or have not done behind the scenes. So let's stop pretending like we just automatically know, like, oh, well, this band will never let me down, or this artist is always going to be there for me. They could be just as bad, or they could be the best human being on the planet, but we will never get to know that because they are not our friend. They are the artist. So let them have that pedestal. Put them away from you, I guess. Kind of put them in this way where they kind of feel untouchable, like they're just out of reach and you can't quite get to them. I really hope that swimmers, Joey in particular, are able to get some help, or able to talk to people and understand their mistakes and understand that they are mistakes, that they did affect somebody's life significantly, and that is Lydia. I again have to reiterate that I definitely do believe Lydia. There is no reason for me not to. I've seen these things happen exactly almost the way that she described them. I've seen it with other bands that have been exposed, and there has been significant evidence to back that up. What do you guys think? This is such a tricky one, and it's such a tough subject. I just feel weird talking about it and being so open about all of these other people's situations. But have you experienced anything online with swimmers? Were you a fan of them? Is it going to be one of those things where you feel like you can separate the art from the artist and you'll continue listening to their music if you already own it or have it saved or whatever? Or are you just done with them forever because you did feel so close to them in a way, and then they pulled this out and the accusations were there and you absolutely believe Lydia? Let me know in the comments section down below.